With us, we have ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Sitting next to him, Senator Ledama Ole Kina of Narok County. Great to have you with us as well, Senator.
Good morning.
And Meru Senator Midhika Linturi. Gentlemen, it's great rather to have you with us this Monday morning. Before we can get into the drama of it all, I want us to begin with an incident closer that happened here in Nairobi. Of course, we saw what happened on Thursday night with Embakasi East Member of Parliament Babu Owino. DJ Evolve, who was shot by a man alleged to be Embakasi East Member of Parliament Babu Owino, is recovering after surgery. According to witnesses, Member of Parliament Babu Owino shot an unarmed man at a B club at around 7 a.m. in Kilimani on Thursday. Of course, National Gun Owners Association of Kenya have come out to call the actions out, and of course, condemning Babu Owino's act. But they're not the only one. The party that he belongs to, ODM, have also distanced themselves from Babu Owino. Secretary General of the party is here with us. Edwin Sifuna, could you add just on top of this in the sense that what disciplinary action should we expect from ODM?
First of all, I want to correct that mischaracterization. We have not distanced ourselves from Babu. We have distanced ourselves from the act.
The act.
There's a difference because, you know, as I said on Twitter, I think I was responding to somebody who asked, what is ODM's position on this thing? I was a bit surprised because, you know, political parties are formed for political purposes and they exist for political purposes.
Yes.
Zinzi, we have a code of conduct that all of us, including myself and Senator Ledama, signed. That code of conduct recognizes that there are certain things that are beyond the realm of the political party. That if you engage yourself in conduct that is outside of politics, so that if you are drinking somewhere in a bar, you're not drinking there on behalf of ODM.
But your drinking isn't disturbing anyone.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. We do not send people in bars to drink as a political party. We send people out to run for political office, to represent the positions of a party. So it is a bit unfair for people to expect that ODM will take disciplinary action against somebody who's accused of...
The actions of that individual, yes, as much as it's outside the political party, it does reflect on the individual.
I agree that it reflects on the party, but I can ask you, do you know which church Babu Owino goes to? Why has his church not been asked to give a statement? Because when you look at the exercise of the right of association, there are limitations, Zinzi, on what we can do. What our code of conduct recognizes is, for instance, after the process, the criminal trial process, if indeed there is a guilty verdict that is entered, then at the end of that particular process, the party can actually take action and de-whip its members or remove them from the register of members. But as it is right now, this is a matter that is within the realm of the DCI, within the realm of the police and the prosecution. This is not a matter for the political party, and it's not the first time. You remember our governor for Migori was charged with criminal offences almost similar to this. And we said as a political party that we are going to allow the law to take its course. Of course, our thoughts and prayers, first of all, are with the victim of this very unfortunate incident. And we hope that he makes a full recovery and is able to tell his side of the story. But of course, we also wish Babu well. We wish him well in his defense. I hope and I'm sure that he will get good legal representation. Let justice be done is all that we can say.
All right, Senator Ledama, do you agree with your Secretary General on how the party is handling this issue?
Yes, absolutely. And I actually have an issue with your sentence that it reflects on the party. How? How does it reflect on the party? I think that's actually a misrepresentation of facts, because if you look at Babu Owino was elected because of, one, because of being Babu Owino, having been a student leader, and number two, because of being a member of the ODM party. So the fact that Babu Owino found himself in a very unfortunate situation does not reflect the image of the party. So in this case, he's an individual. The incident that happened is very unfortunate, and we leave it to the authorities to be able to carry out the investigation and come up with a logical conclusion, you know, and treat Babu Owino, because the fact that Babu Owino is a member of ODM does not make him a lesser person or a more of a person. He's still an individual, and you're still accountable to your actions.
All right. Senator Linturi, as I also rope you into the conversation, should the family members of DJ Evolve expect any justice for their son, who is still recovering?
I have no reason to imagine that they will not get injustice, because I think I'm a believer in the rule of law, and it is expectant, and I think it's right. we are all supposed to be equal before the law.
Right.
So Justice Owino being a member of parliament does not make him a god that he shouldn't face. He's not subject to the law, and I think what I would want to imagine is that the DCI or the government agencies will do injustice in terms of investigations and collecting the right evidence to be able to bring the actions of Babu Owino and his allies, Edwin. And I personally believe that crime is you take personal responsibility of whatever criminal act that you undertake or you get yourself into. And we must also create a culture of trying to differentiate between actions that are personal in nature and that really touch on either political parties or churches or the people that you associate yourself with. So this is purely, in my view,
Senator, the reason why I was even asking about it, about the confidence of the legal structure in Kenya, is because unfortunately this is not the first time that Kenyans are seeing the politically high and mighty getting away with a criminal attempted murder. It's not the first time.
If we were to no, I don't know, because the investigators have not come out really to decide which offences that Ochanji Babu Owino with. I think it's just out there in the public that is attempted murder, because you can also not forget that even grievous bodily harm would also suffice for certain reasons that probably would be discussed by the lawyers and the people that understand the ingredients or what forms the right ingredients for such offences.
Right.
But I think it's important to tell the country why people are creating that perceptions that the mighty may want to run away from legal action because of the nature and the character of government agencies that are supposed to be custodians of this process. I'm told that a court judge gave an order for the closure of B Club where Babu Owino was taking a drink. I'm yet to verify that, but I would say if that is indeed the truth, the persons that I would even first of all would want to hear are the government implementing agents or the law enforcement officers, because if a court has given an order for enforcement, there is a department of one of the Matiang'i departments, say the police or also where the order is directed to ensure enforcement. So why I'm bringing out this issue is because if there was an order to close this club, and if the order had been enforced, probably then that club would not have been operating. And if it would not have been operating, then Babu Owino would not have been there. So these are things that we'll be asking, although that does not really get Babu Owino out of the hook. But I think it's also an issue that we must raise, because there is every reason for Kenyans to think that way, because we hear in the newspapers, we hear in radios, we hear in meetings, as if there's a class of people in this country who are not subject to the law, or there are people in this country who sit in certain offices by virtue of public trust, and then who do not do what the law requires of them, and then they, my view, should take personal responsibility. But it is wrong. It's an unfortunate incident. Babu should not have done this. And I would also ask the Firearms Bureau and the department that vets people giving firearms. Honestly, you expect men and women in this country of below 35 years to be very erratic and emotional in the manner in which they conduct themselves. I was there some time back, but I can tell you, without giving a blanket condemnation of the people within that age bracket,
yes,
that people can easily, within that age bracket, be very careless in the manner in which they handle firearms.
Your colleagues here are shaking their heads in
they're
disagreement.
entitled to their opinion.
All right, Senator Ledama, very quickly before we move to Kasarani.
I completely disagree. I don't think you can be able to judge an entire generation. Yeah. You know, you can't say that between the ages of 18 and 35 are reckless. No, they're not. I think it's an individual and everybody is responsible for their actions. I know of very young people, actually 22-year-old people up to 29, who act better than 45 and above-year-old people. So really, age ain't nothing but a number.
All right, let's talk about Kasarani. So over the weekend, over the past 4 days actually, before the weekend came to a close, Matatu operators on the Mwiki Kasarani Road had an entire 4-day strike due to the bad state of the road. We also saw Senator Sakaja come out on the last day saying that the roads will be fixed. In fact, 1.7 billion Kenyan shillings has been sought out to fix the bad roads. Demonstrators rather clashed with police. During those 4 days of protest, a 17-year-old boy lost his life during that specific protest. And of course, several others were also injured. Senator Midhika, let me begin with you. Senator Ledama, okay, let me begin with Sifuna. Let me come to Sifuna. Do we have to get to this point as Kenyans, for Kenyans to get basic services? A road protest for 4 days, a 17-year-old shot, several others injured. Senator Sakaja came out and said 1.7 billion will be, extra money rather, will be committed to this road. It has to get to this point until Kenyans can get basic services?
Yeah, I think what happened in Kasarani was quite unfortunate. It is extremely regrettable. I think there are separate issues there that we need to bring out. Number one, it shouldn't come to protests for people to get services from government. It is a right of every citizen, having paid taxes, to be able to sit back and you know, in the faith that the government is going to apply those taxes to better their lot. So it was a bit disappointing that it got to protest. And by the way, this Mwiki Kasarani Road issue has been a perennial matter. That in fact in the past funds have been applied, but it is clear that the sort of job that has been done has been quite below par. That this road gets you know, back to the same state very, very quickly. So it is surprising, and also you know, I've gotten to understand that somehow there's always just money hanging somewhere.
Yes.
It makes a mockery of the entire budget making process. That if you make enough noise, there's money that is always going to be found. I was a bit surprised also, even when the president spoke, that after the hue and cry in central Kenya, suddenly money was found to buy extra milk in the market. There was money to build 2 new plants in Nyahururu and in Nyeri. There was money for a COVID cherry revolving
for the
fund,
locusts.
For the locusts. I mean,
the drought, for the floods. It
makes a total mockery of the budget making process. That a government that is working properly, that there is foresight, there should be money allocated for these roads and for these programs, so that it doesn't take crisis for us to be able to move money from here and there to be able to solve them. The loss of life is what pains me the most. As you know, as an opposition party, we have always stood for the political rights of Kenyans, including the right...
I don't know whether it would be right to interject.
Let me finish, and then you make
There's
the point.
The impression that Sifuna is trying to correct, to make which I do not agree, and I think it should be clear.
Yeah, you will make your point.
He's saying is the opposition party. My friend, you are not in the opposition. Say, and government, and you
right.
have
You see, Zinzi, this is some of the things that are quite infuriating in this country. I am the SG of ODM, but he wants to speak for ODM. And I'm seated right here.
We'll come to you.
Senator Linturi, ODM is going to hold elections this year. If you want to be the Secretary General of a party so that you can speak authoritatively on matters ODM, on whether we are opposition or government, you are welcome to challenge
But
me.
don't you not think he also has a point? Is ODM still opposition or is ODM government?
You cannot
focus. Can we focus on the Mwingi Road?
You cannot know more than me. I am the ODM.
But
he's in Jubilee. How would he be? If we were in government?
Tell us the truth.
Anyway,
We'll
I think
come
he
to
wants
that.
to
Back to Kasarani.
derail me.
Yes.
What I was saying is, as an opposition party and a pro-people party, we have always believed in the rights that are given for Kenyans, including the right to protest peacefully, so that nobody needs to lose their lives just because they are protesting for better
And
roads.
that brings me to my next point, the right to a peaceful protest.
Yes.
Senator Ledama, when will we be able to see protests in Kenya happening peacefully? As much as law-wise, yes, cops should be there for security purposes to oversee, but when will we have protests in Kenya that are peaceful without any extrajudicial killings, without any police and protesters having to scuffle each other? When will we get to that point where we can have peaceful protests?
Zinzi, allow me first of all to weigh in on the matter of the bad roads that we have in Kenya. You asked a very fundamental question as to whether we should always be finding ourselves in this. And I like what my SG has said, that it is quite unfortunate that sometimes when push comes to shove, there's always a solution. You know, there's money. You have to go out there. I want to remind Kenyans, and also the government of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, that in this country, we do have an act, Road Maintenance Levy Act, which is money paid by every fuel that you consume in this country. There is a percentage of that money which is remitted by the marketers to the government so that it can be able to cater for our roads. So in reality, we should not have a problem in terms of our roads. I should not spend 5 hours driving from Narok to Nairobi.
So how do you explain to Kenyans how we're here?
It's just because of ineptness. In the sense that we have a government that doesn't really give a hoot in hell about the people, the welfare of the people. In fact, what ought to happen is that Road Maintenance Levy Act should really be fully implemented. And this is why some of us are a little bit skeptical when it comes to issues of implementing new things, yet we can't even implement what is already on the table. So my problem is this. We have a Ministry of Transport. That Minister of Transport should be able to explain to Kenyans what he's doing with that, that levy act. The fuel, the money that we pay, the taxes that we pay. You know, really, this is a country that you ask, when are we ever going to be able to have peaceful demonstration? The first question that I want to ask is that when are we really ever going to be able to use money intended for a particular purpose for that purpose?
So Senator Linturi, it's not that there's no money. There is money. But this money just happens to surface up when there's an emergency. And also, from what the senator is saying, you're in Jubilee Party, but you are nodding. You agree when you say that this government is not a government for its people. You're in that same. You're in that part of the government.
I'm in Jubilee Party, but I highly regret because Jubilee is not able to keep its promise to the people. And that's why I was challenging Sifuna, because I don't like living a lie. When things are not right, they are not right. Tell the people, because we are no longer foolish.
Right.
Kenyans can be able to see for themselves. Just as like they are saying, Nairobi we are driving, I don't know whether in gullies or in shambas, because there are no roads. We are barely driving in gullies, and it's really a problem, and Ledama is putting it very correctly, that there is a levy fund to collect money for maintenance of roads. Where this money goes to or where it's collected, I don't know. I don't stay in Treasury.
Is it a development problem or a leadership problem? Because money is there.
Leadership.
Of course, it's leadership. What are you asking? It's a common sense question. And everybody, most of the leaders have also let us down, including Senator Ledama or anybody else who is elected, because we don't want to speak candidly about these things. We want to lie to Kenyans and start pampering people or telling them how they are doing well when they are not. When they are not addressing the issue. So it is a leadership problem. And the faster we look and see where blame lies, then better, other than every time telling the people what is not the correct thing. And secondly, this aspect of when we are going to get or see a situation where we'll get a protest, peaceful protests, let me tell you, they should not expectant. They should not be expectant anymore, because the gains that we had, that we achieved through the current constitution, right, are being lost day by day. The last time I personally went into a protest, I didn't care getting a bullet, is when we all decided that Moi was to go.
That's the last time you were in a protest?
That is the time I personally participated in protests, and I didn't want to care. And when I could see serious contingent of police condoning a stadium where we are expected to be. Yes.
So you don't remember any recent protests?
No, you see, the deceased protests are not serious protests for people that really cared about these countries, for about individual interests and some.
That's exactly what Moi said about your protests. That's exact same thing Moi said about you.
If actually these people, those protests were guided by other interests, then this will not be dining and whining right now. And when I sat personally, consistently talking about it, when we used to sit in parliament discussing issues, Ledama would not arise, would not come because he was busy in the street.
No, that is not true.
Ledama,
that is absolutely
when
not
you
true.
people were in the streets protesting,
how
many people
let's put it this way. Let me just correct that.
Let Ledama have the last say because we need to go on a commercial break. Yes.
Give
him a chance. I may have forgotten. Just in case.
You know, right now, this economy is doing well, or it has got potentials of doing well. There's sobriety in the market because of what we in ODM or in the opposition did. If we did not have those protests, we would not have this handshake.
What Machozi,
I can tell you that. So let me tell you, when my colleague here talks about a serious protest, during Moi era, you know, maybe at that point he was still trying to take care of his own personal interest. But in this case, ODM carried out a protest for the interest of this nation.